Hi, I'm Lindy King. I'm with California College Transfer. I help students transfer to the University of California from a community college or also out of state, frankly, from anywhere. Internationals are harder, but out of state is not as hard as people think, harder than a community college, but not impossible. Anyway, this is my very first keynote presentation, and I'm putting it on YouTube. It's my first one. So I thought that it would be great to start with what's a brand new thing, the new personal insights. They are replacing the old personal statements, and I thought this was the perfect way to start. So I just want to give you a quick background on the personal statement. They were there for 10 years. It was two essay questions. For the last several years, it was always the same essay question, which was number one, why do you like your major? And you talk about your major. And the other one was to talk about a talent, skill, personal quality, or hardship. You got to pick anything that was some kind of quality about yourself that you wanted to discuss. These two personal statements were 1,000 words total. You could divide it however you wished. Usually it would be maybe 600 for one and 400 for another. And those same questions have been around for quite a few years. Well, this year they changed it. And what they did was they've come up now with the personal insight short answer questions. So what they're going to do here is instead of the two essays, you're going to choose four short answers. One's required, but there's seven others, and you get to choose three others of those. What this gives you is obviously more choices. In theory, it's kind of the same thing that was in the second essay, but now they've spread it out so you actually can just pick a bunch of different ones. And it really makes you as an individual stand out a lot better to admissions so they can figure it out better. So I'm going to quickly go over the key components. The first key component is the variety of topics. Like I said, there are 8 questions. You pick 4, but one of those is required. So the other 3 you pick from the 7. The next part is that there's 300 word max for each essay. So initially, a lot of people thought, oh my God, this is worse because 4 of them, that comes out to 1,400 words, where the other 2 were 1,000 words. That is true, but there's a couple positives to that we'll go over later. The next part is equal value, and that is what the UCs are saying. Each question is equal value. One is not better than the other, so you don't have to worry about that. And the last one, of course, is that this starts for all fall 27 applicants. So let's go into a little more detail about these. Okay. So the first one, the 4 transfer questions. Okay, so those are the same subjects as a personal statement, but now instead of one essay where you choose a single topic, they're now broken into segments, so you can choose them individually. You can pick talent, skill, hardship, leadership. There's nothing new here because those were kind of listed before, but so from that point of view, you don't have to worry, but you get to now pick 2 shorter ones. Okay, the next thing is again the 300 word max. I mentioned a lot of people might think, oh my God, that's more words, but it really isn't. That's the maximum count. And you could be right, frankly, you could just write 250 words for each one. They're not going to mark you down for less words. So, and the other thing is where an essay, you have the traditional beginning, middle, end. These are short answers. So you don't really have that. I mean, obviously you want to write a compelling short answer and you want to write it as good as you can, but you don't really have the confines of an essay. So it's really easier to do. Equal value, as I said, you can choose any of them. All of them are equal. Nothing is better than the other. And I actually think one of the reasons they've broken these out is there was the prevailing myth that if you didn't have a hardship, you were not going to get in. And I've seen a lot of internet advisors really push hardship in an essay. You don't need a hardship. So if you don't have one, don't worry about it. So that's what that is basically telling you. And the last part, again, is just the purpose, is to allow the UCs to get a better representational picture of each potential admitted student. So let's move to the next part. Don't panic. Before we get to the questions, you now have clear choices. It actually should be easier to write them. The prevailing myth of necessary hardship does not exist, as I said, so don't worry. And the positives really far outweigh the negatives in terms of, just frankly, I think they are going to be easier to write. Okay, so now let's go through the questions. By the way, just so you know, we don't know yet, since this is a brand new thing. Are these going to just be always the same questions year after year, or are they going to change? That we don't know yet. I think they'll probably stay fairly much in place just because they're very generic, but we don't know yet. Okay, so let's start with the first one, and it's the question that must be answered. Please describe how you have prepared for your intended major, including your readiness to succeed in your upper division courses once you enroll at the university. Now, this is required. It's required of transfers. Freshmen do not get a major question because they're really kind of too young to maybe know their major. As a transfer, obviously, you're applying with a major, so they want to know about it. So this would include, like I said, internships, volunteering, tutoring, any kind of outside experience. Later on, I'm actually going to do a thing on, I think I'll do a YouTube video on internships because, as we know, they're very hard to get when you're in community college, but there are ways to do it, and I think I might do a little YouTube video on that later. But anyway, any kind of outside thing that will show what they want to see is that you understand your career path and that you have passion for the subject. Ways to show it would be, if you want math, you're tutoring kids in math. If you like econ, you started a business club at the school. Volunteering in the community, courses somewhere. This is another thing. Courses somewhere else, coding academy. Well, I know here in the Bay Area, there's Stanford Continuing Studies, kind of pricey, but they have subjects that you might be able to do something with. Just things that they want to know that you understand the major. If you don't have any experience whatsoever about your major, then basically you just want to talk about that you understand the career path, what it is you're looking forward to, why it is you love math, why it is you love statistics, why it is you love political science. Maybe you want to do international studies. Just let them, they want to see that you have a grasp of the career and the major. So now, the other thing is if you're applying to multiple UCs, which most people are, sometimes they're not always the same major you're applying to, or they're going by different names. If they're going by different names, don't worry about it. Just say, econ or sociology or whatever it is. Just talk about it in a general term. If it's two different types of majors, try to find a common thread. I'll give you an example. Communications. There's only 4 UCs that have the communications major. It's called Media Studies at Berkeley, but it's the same. So it's 4 of them. Now, let's just say you want to apply to more than 4 UCs. Well, you're not going to be able to pick communications on those others, so you'll probably try to find something related that more or less fulfills the requirements you've already taken. So you might do a psychology at one, you might do a sociology. So how you would do it, you would probably talk about, marketing, PR, whatever it is you're interested in the communications, but if it was like psychology, you could bring in things like that you're really interested in the psychological behavior of consumers, social media, and how it motivates people. You just kind of bring in the psychological components of marketing. And so you would do that with anything, whether it's math and statistics, whether it's econ and business, just look for that common thread. Okay, so that's the required question. We're now going to go to the next 7 questions, and you choose 3 to answer. And it's California. There's the little map yet again. Okay, so the optional question 1, you're going to pick 3 of these. This one is, describe an example of your leadership experience in which you have positively influenced others, helped resolve disputes, or contributed to group efforts over time. So these are going to be questions, did you lead a team? And what did you lead? What did you learn from it? Did you learn from failure? They actually like failure, so just don't worry about it. They actually like seeing that you learn something, that you're not like a know-it-all. So they'll be happy with that. Did your leadership lead to new way of thinking? What was the impact? You can bring up team bonding, team building. Did you overcome an obstacle? Did you resolve a problem? So leadership can, even include, like it says here, your family. Maybe you've had to kind of run the household because of problems. So just think of something that you may have had to have been a lead. And what was it? What was the impact? Did you resolve a problem? That sort of thing. So the next question is, every person has a creative side and it can be expressed in many ways: problem solving, original innovative thinking, and artistically, to name a few. Describe how you expressed your creative side. Now, what's interesting about this is that they're instantly making it clear that creativity is not just painting, dance, music. They're including problem solving, original innovative thinking, so that you don't feel like, oh my God, I've got no talents. Everyone has a talent. You just have to think about what that is. And so, what they want to, all right, so start here, sorry. Did you solve a problem using this skill set? Okay, thinking outside the box. So you have a creative side or a problem solving side or innovative thinking. Think about ways that might have helped you in some capacity. Does it influence your decisions? How important is it? How important is this skill set? You love it so much that you can't live without it. Has it actually impacted how you view other things? And does it relate to your major? Does it help you in any way? For example, you might have learned patience, puzzle solving. Maybe you're a long distance runner and it helps focus your mind. There's a lot of things you could have that would be that you could put into this. Okay, so let's go to the next one, which is what would you say is your greatest talent or skill? How have you developed and demonstrated that talent over time? So here we have, do you have to work at it or is it natural? Does it create opportunities for you? Have you received awards or recognition? And does it help you? Now, this is very similar, I think, to the creativity, the talent, or the skill. So they've kind of split it up. But, if they're saying that problem solving and innovative thinking was a talent, I mean, it is also a skill. So you can basically, I think, pretty much pick or choose these. But just think of something that, and like I said, it could be you running, it could be sports, it could be puzzle solving, it could be maybe you love vegetable gardening and there's a lot you've done with it. You can really use a lot of different things. So just think about a skill or a talent, and that's something you can write about. Question 4. Okay. Describe how you've taken advantage of a significant educational opportunity or worked to overcome an educational barrier you faced. Okay. So now this is the one that can go either way. You might have had a lot of opportunity and you're going to talk about it, or frankly, you may have had very little and you've had to claw your way through the mud to get to where you've been. So this is where you're going to talk about that. If you've if you've taken advanced courses, again, like you go to a coding class or you've done Stanford continuing studies or you've gone somewhere and just done some extra classes, make sure you mention it. If you've overcome barriers, academic obstacles, make sure you mention that. When maybe you had a lot of obstacles to get to school, to get courses, to work your way up academically. If you've had any of these, you definitely 100% want to answer this question. They want to know it, and it will be beneficial if you've had obstacles you've had to overcome, in the sense of it's showing stamina and determination. So they're going to like that. Just make sure you don't show any bitterness. Just show growth and how you made it work. Talk about your strength. Okay, next one is describe the most significant challenge you have faced and the steps you have taken to overcome this challenge. How has this challenge affected your academic achievement? Okay, this is the hardship question. If you have a hardship in your life, you need to answer this question. Okay, so it could be from school, it could be from your community, it could be from home. There's a little overlap with the previous one because it mentioned school. But you need to talk about why it is important, obviously, and how it affected you. Did you get any support? Are you still working through it? How did you deal with it? And how has it shaped who you are? Did you learn from it? Okay, so this is something, this is the hardship question. There's no getting around it. And let me just also mention one other thing. Based on previous years, if you have a hardship, like you really mention a hardship here, or you mention a talent, and I'm talking about a talent that's fairly significant, like you're a gymnast or something, they may, or you have a disability, they may very well send out a supplemental in January wanting to know more about the disability, more about the talent, or more about the hardship. And that's fairly standard, so don't freak out or don't worry about it. And you might think, well, I already answered all this. Why are they asking me again? They just do it. So it's pretty standard. If you don't get one, don't worry about it. They just obviously figured they got enough information. But disability, I think it's almost like you mentioned that word disability shows up, you're going to get a supplemental. Okay. Next question, we only have 2 left, this and the other one, is what have you done to make your school or your community a better place? Okay, did you volunteer? It doesn't have to be big. Did you volunteer? Did you create a clothing drive? Maybe you created a fundraising event. Maybe you've done something for the environment. Special Olympics, you've tutored, you've coached. It can't be anything, but what they really want to know is they want to see if you've been giving back. That's the big thing, giving back. So if you've done anything like that, talk about the situation. What was your motivation? Why did you get involved with it? And describe the result and how it impacted you or affected you, or the effect within the community. Just to mention this one here too, this is a good question. If you want to go to law school or something like that, this is always a good one. Anything to do with the community, if it's a nonprofit or law school, it's a good one to consider answering. Okay, so now we're at the last question. What is the one thing that you think sets you apart from other candidates applying to the University of California? What would you tell a stranger about yourself? How do you add to the wild mix of diversity? Do you have an interesting characteristic not discussed? So this is what you need to know. You're unique. Even if you think you're not unique, you think, I haven't done anything special. I'm just me. Everyone's unique. You've got something. Don't be afraid to brag. Don't go over the tops where you're like some blowhard. But certainly if you feel you've done some things or you've gotten some awards or you're adding something to the UC, make sure to mention it. And this is the thing. Why the UC is your dream. So obviously you're picturing yourself walking around there. You're picturing yourself at a UC. So there's something about it that is making you think, I belong here. So talk about it. Maybe it's diversity. Maybe you have an interesting way of thinking. But just talk about how you think you will fit in. And just so you know, this is the thing the UCs like. I think when they think about themselves, when they go to bed at night, they think the UCs like ideas, they like diversity, they like giving back, they like being part of a global community. So keep these things in mind, okay, when you do it. So those are the optional 7 questions. You have to pick 3 of those. Any of them will work, and you've got some leeway there. Okay, so let's just do really quickly, it's literally 1 minute here. I'm going to talk about strategy. Okay, this is the key to writing any of these answers, and that is this. You need to start somewhere and finish somewhere else. You start at point A, which is the situation, whatever it happens to be, and you go to point B, which is the end result. The situation has to change. This is the key to all the questions. Whatever you write, there needs to be change. If you're writing about leadership, what did you learn? How did you grow? Did you learn from a mistake? Did a mentor teach you a new way? If it's a skill or a talent, you have your raw talent. How did you nurture it? What did you get out of it emotionally, mentally, or spiritually? If it's a hardship, how did you grow? How did you handle your self-esteem? What changed? There needs to be progress from point A to point B. As long as you have that, you've answered the question. Just make sure about that. Okay, so now we're going to go into final thoughts. And that's number one, have fun with the questions. I know they're going to get you nervous, but one thing I did want to say, and actually I was going to say it earlier and I forgot to mention it, you will not be declined admission because of your answers. They can only help. You are never withdrawn because of an essay or a personal question. So if they've already decided they want you in, they're not going to care about it. You're not going to lose it. Where these things help a person the most are in two areas, two very important areas. And that is if you're a borderline student where they're on the fence about you, then how you've answered these questions can really, they're looking at you next to another student. Hey, we can let Bob in or we can let Mary in. That's where you really want to have these questions shine. The other thing isn't so much admissions, but that is if you are a top student, like 3.9, 4.0, you're more than likely, assuming you've done everything right, you have your unit, you have your requirements completed, the odds are you're going to get in. Where this can help, though, is with a Regent scholarship, because they do look at these for in terms of financial aid, but also in terms of the scholarships. Not alumni scholarships, but the UC scholarships like Regents. So the better you write these, the more you will be in the running. And I might say what I have learned from looking at a lot of these Regents winners, it's very confusing as to how they choose. Because sometimes a 4.0 doesn't get it, and a 3.9 gets it. So you're like, well, And what I've noticed is the big component that gets them is that everything in that application points to one goal. Their extracurriculars, at least be personal statements, which are the essays now, it's these questions, their major. They all are pointing to a specific goal. They're interconnected. So when they look at the whole application, they're seeing one, like a funnel where everything's going into one direction. So keep that in mind if you're 3.9 or 4.0. So that is basically it. I have finished my presentation. I do help with brainstorming or ideas. If you want to contact me, you can. My Twitter is CCC2UC. I'm at California College Transfer, cacollegetransfer.com. Facebook, also cacollegetransfer.com. It's been my joy to present this. This is my first time, so I hope it didn't turn out really horribly. Okay, I'll talk to you later. Bye.